everybody, and that is 7:10. We'll start our first public hearing at 7:10. Okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for demolition of a building at 1 Hawthorne Street in Grafton. And who's here to discuss that? Are they on?
I actually don't see Brian.
Okay.
Um, I know, Jan, you're probably buried in email, but you didn't see anything from him, did you? Saying that he wouldn't come?
No, I didn't see anything.
I mean, if you guys want, I can speak to it. It's pretty simple.
Why don't you give us an overview on it, Leah?
Okay. So Jan, if you can pull up whatever we have as a visual, probably the plan first. So at 1 Hawthorne Street, Brian's looking to take down the last building that needs to come down. It's what was previously called Bullock Plaza. He came to us before to demolish the building on the left that says June 2022. He's now proposing to demolish the one highlighted in yellow on the right. If anyone knows it by, I think it's the hot tub, the old hot tub store. So he files with us because he has an intermittent culverted stream underneath his parking lot about where that line north to south that you can see through the property. He already went ahead and installed catch basin protection, which is one of the things we required last time. Sent us a photo of it as proof that he did that. And I asked what his plans were for that spot after demolition, and he said it will be parking area for the daycare. That's also part of this complex. That's it by way of presentation. After that, I just have suggestions for the commission.
Okay. So without the applicant being here, does that prevent us from going forward?
I don't
Usually,
think so. We've had this happen like once in a while.
yeah, I know that sometimes we give people options if it's whatever, if it's routine or if it's, okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not on because he's got a kind of tight timeline to do this. So I don't know if he had like a family emergency or something.
Okay. So as far as, and again, we've run across these type of projects previously where it's a culverted stream, so it's still jurisdictional to the wetlands, as long as they're not touching the stream and they're protecting any runoff or any kind of debris getting into that culvert and so forth. It's usually fairly straightforward. They're not touching the culvert, correct?
Correct. He said just as a future heads up, he will have to do some work to it someday, but not right now.
Right, and that would not just be us, but might be depending upon what exactly it connects, it might be other jurisdictions too. But for us right now, this is fairly straightforward. So I'm just go around. Um, I'm just going to go around to the commissioners to see if anyone has any specific questions. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. They have to get, Leah, they have to get a demo plan from the building inspector also, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is really just related to the culvert. So Jonathan, any kind of questions? Or
What's the protection, Leah, that they put around it? Is it like hay bales and silt fence, or is it physical like plywood boxes to keep demo debris out or something?
I
What's
think,
the protection?
yeah, we actually have a photo that I think I threw in Dropbox. I think he did silt sacks and then straw wattle around it, and then he's got like a weight on top of that besides to keep it all in place. Like maybe a cinder block, I think it was.
Tried to open that one and oh, there it goes. I was gonna say I saw the.
We're having weird PDF problems. If you guys ever can't open stuff, let us know. We just got a new Adobe license, so
okay, because I was having all sorts of issues
yeah,
getting. Oh,
yeah,
that's okay.
please let us know. I was troubleshooting some with Amira the other day.
Okay, right. So that's a pretty typical silt sack.
So he's got a silt sack around And then he's got a piece of plywood over the top of it, or a weight of some kind. Is that what was the other picture?
Right.
Looks like a piece of, I don't even know what that is. Looks like plywood.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I mean, obviously it rained a little while ago, so I don't know if this will that allow water in but not debris. It seems straightforward enough. I'm not trying to make a big deal, but I just didn't know how it was going to work and how long it was going to be in place.
Yeah. I would agree with you that the issue isn't the silt sacks, it's putting something on top of it if it reduces capacity to get in.
Yeah, or it might create a minor flooding problem or something if you're not getting enough
Yep.
water into the catch basin, especially with these flash little storms that go by. So it may just I don't think it's an end all. It might just be an adjustment to what he's done with the weight. I like the idea of trying to keep debris out of the catch basin. Um, and then he's got the silt. He's got double silt protection with the hay or the straw wattle and the silt sack.
Yep.
I don't know. In the past, I don't know if we've done something where the weight is not necessary, or
I don't know. I don't know if he put like this cover over it because he may have equipment
equipment.
going over it, which is
Yeah.
a steel plate where you have it there when you need it and so forth. So it's not like it's connected to anything.
Right. I'm just assuming that when work was not going to take place, he'd probably move the steel plate so the catch basin would work. And then if the work is taking place, then he'd have the steel plate over it. But
Yeah,
I don't know if
we can also just add a condition to it, to our approvals to say that, during rainstorms, the plates need to be taken off to allow for a free flow to the catch basin.
and
Something
potentially
as
like
simple. Yeah.
debris needs to be swept up around it or something, or cleaned up around it. There's stuff that would work its way into the catch basin.
Yeah. Okay. So I think without
No
him
other
here
concern.
to discuss, yeah, without him here to discuss it, if we have an issue with it, we can just give a fairly straightforward, simple condition. So
Yep. Nothing else for me.
thank
Sandy.
you, Travis. Any questions?
I'm good with this approach.
Okay, great. Amira, any questions?
Yeah, I had a question about, I was reading through the documents and it sounds like the silt sack is going to stay in place until the construction is done and sweeping has been completed, correct?
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Is there any value to leaving the silt sack until the next rainstorm to catch any sediment that might still be sticking around?
So it's a good question. And what they're supposed to do is clean up, meaning they'll sweep um the area and so forth. Leah, one quick question. Doing they talk about they're going to allow this area to be for parking, but they're not paving it at this point, right?
I'm not certain on that, but I was going to suggest wording on our catch basin protection condition to be that it remains in place until stabilization is achieved, and that could be pavement,
Completely.
or that could be
Okay.
gravel over the dirt, or that could be seeding the area, whatever.
Whatever they end up doing, but it's
Right.
gotta be fully stabilized. So, Amira, you're right in the fact of asking the timing of it. Um, so, they also have to maintain that silt sack, which means there's a right way to empty it and a wrong way. So they have to clean it out periodically depending upon how much gets in there. But to Leah's point, I think, the idea of making sure that everything on the site has to be stabilized and cleaned up before they take it out and so forth. So, but yeah, that would be anything else?
And then we make that determination as to like what stabilized means for this site, or is there like a specific
No.
definition?
So there isn't a kind of an understanding of what stabilized means, meaning you don't have any exposed soil. There isn't, that if it's vegetated, it's to a certain level that you don't get, sediment and so forth running off of it. Obviously, if it's pavement, it has to be in place and so forth. So I think there's an understanding of what it means to be stabilized, but it could be in different forms. And since we don't know that, we just want to make sure it is stabilized. And even if they're not going to do on the site anything on the site for a year or two, it doesn't matter to us as long as whatever system they put in is going to be stable for that period of time. So you don't get the erosion, you don't get, yeah. So,
Got it.
but those are all good questions. So,
Um, okay. Yeah, so I had another question. So in my mind, I was thinking that my concern was runoff from the demolition
so,
entering the drain, not so much like dirt.
so there's kind of a couple different components, right? So it's like, so there are certain, so as far as demolishing the building itself, obviously they have to get a permit from the building department, and there's certain restrictions on that, on how they demolish it, right? So that needs to be taken care of, like things like, things have to be covered, or if they put it in a dumpster and so forth. We typically are not as worried about the big chunks of concrete or wood or whatever the building material is. We're probably more concerned about more of the particulates, whether that is, crushing something like, you're breaking apart concrete and you get a lot of fines. And that's what the silt sack is there to prevent, and so forth. Um, as far as if there's anything within the building or anything that could present a potential hazard from a chemical standpoint, or hazardous waste type, that should be taken care of through the building department, where they have certain processes when they demo a building. But they would take care of that, because as an example, if there's asbestos or something in it, that's not us. That would be the building department, and they would have to do whatever appropriate testing, and if there is anything there, they have to follow a whole different set of regulations from the state. So, but it's, I think we get kind of focused on the fine particulates, so that's what the things that usually get into the water, the stormwater then can flow downstream and so forth. So, but it's, um, we're not going to regulate anything on how they demo the building, because that's really the building department. But
Sounds good. Thank you. I have no other
yep.
questions.
All right. Thanks. Um, Leah, anything else as far as your report, or any other suggestions for conditions or anything?
Yeah, I think we've kind of landed on one for the catch basin protection. The only other one that I had was demolition shall not occur when rain has been forecasted to avoid stormwater runoff issues.
Perfect, thanks. At this point, would like to put it out to the public. If anyone has any comments or questions about this particular project or the condition we just spoke about, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call on you. In the meanwhile, we are just going to talk more about the conditions and any findings. We don't really have any findings for this. It's fairly straightforward. It is um, it is just a culvert. It's a encased culvert underneath the ground. The access points to the catch basins, that's what we're concerned about. And you've got all the conditions, and no one showed up from the applicant yet.
Correct.
Okay. So I don't particularly have an issue um, with going ahead and taking a vote on it. The only thing is that the applicant really, if he had anything else to say, doesn't have the option to kind of express his feelings, but the time and date was kind of published. So,
I mean, we've worked with him pretty closely on this. I think it'd be okay proceeding.
okay. Alrighty. So, not seeing anyone. Jan, has anyone raised their hand?
Nothing from the public.
All right, great. So, why don't we have a motion to issue a negative determination with the conditions as previously stated?
I'll move to close the hearing for 1 Hawthorne Street and issue a negative determination with the special conditions as discussed.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
And I am also a yes. The motion carries. So it is now, oh, it is, okay. So I need to go back to, I am still getting used to the way Dropbox is set up for me now. Okay. All right. So next public hearing is at 7:20. It's now 7:25. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will act upon a notice of intent and application for a Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a sewer line extension from 7 Beth Lee Drive, 42 McGill Drive, and 33 R Bruce Street. So who's here to present this?
Good evening. Chad Kershaw with CDM Smith.
You have the floor. And just let staff know what you would like to present as far as plans and so forth.
Okay, great. I believe, Jan, you have the package. If you could just display figure 2, which is the GIS figure with the aerial.
Sure. I was sent a presentation slide deck. Do you want me to pull that up?
Please. Yeah, this is perfect. Okay, great. So again, my name is Chad Kershaw. I'm a project manager with CDM Smith. Also on the line from CDM Smith is Maggie Lofsted, who is our senior wetland scientist. The plan for our presentation is I'll go over the project purpose, provide a project summary and where we currently stand in the design, and then hand it over to Maggie to discuss the wetlands resources impacted, as well as our proposed mitigation plan. So, you know, the problem that the DPW faces here is this existing pump station. It's the Beth Lee Drive pumping station. It's not called out on this figure, but it's on the property of 7 Beth Lee Drive. So Beth Lee Drive is the cul-de-sac on the north end of this figure, and 7 Beth Lee Drive is the home to the south off the cul-de-sac with the large backyard. This pump station, it collects wastewater flow from all the homes along Beth Lee Drive. I believe it's 9 homes in total. And it then pumps the wastewater up Beth Lee Drive via a force main to the intersection of Beth Lee Drive and Bruce Street. This pump station, it's not only on private property, but it's about 60 feet off the south end of the cul-de-sac. So it's pretty far down into the property. It's not right off the roadway. This pump station, it can be accessed via the 7 Beth Lee Drive private driveway, but it is on a very steep slope, which causes some issues that I'll discuss in a minute. The pump station, it's about 35 years old, and it's really past its useful life at this point. It requires, you know, a significant upgrade or maybe even a replacement. Many of the electrical components, including the control panel, really need to be replaced as soon as possible. It does not have SCADA controls, so the town can't remotely access and control the pump station. There's only local alarms in place. So if there's ever an issue with the pump station, the alarms go off and the residents need to call the DPW, and then they come visit the pump station to determine the issue. There's no on-site backup power at this pump station. So when Beth Lee Drive does lose power, the DPW has to bring a portable generator to the site. And you know, one issue that this town runs into a lot is that during winter events, you know, during a blizzard or a significant storm, and power's lost, they have to get to the site, but because of the steepness of the driveway, it's nearly impossible to get a vehicle down there. So access issues is a major concern. And Jan, I think we have a photo of the pump station from Bethley Drive. Yeah. So this photo is taken from Bethley Drive, looking south down the driveway. The electrical pedestal you can see just to the right of the driveway. That's about 30, 40 feet down. And then it's an additional 20, 30 feet to get to the actual wet well where the pumps are located. And then, as I mentioned, you know, a significant upgrade or replacement is required. And a replacement for a pump station of this size and type with on-site backup power is going to be well over $1 million. Also, a much larger easement would need to be taken to accommodate the on-site generator if the town were to go the replacement option. And then, as someone mentioned earlier on the call, you know, it's our understanding that this pump station was installed as a temporary solution with a gravity sewer in mind for like a future permanent fix. And one reason we say that is the existing sewer easement along 7 Bethley Drive extends beyond the existing pumping station. It actually extends all the way south to the McGill property. It's a 25-foot wide easement. And that's the easement that we would be using for our proposed gravity sewer. So the DPW, they hired CDM Smith last year to pull together a design. And we're currently at about the 90% design level. If you go back to the GIS figure, Jan. Thanks. So what we're proposing is to install about 700 feet of 8-inch PVC sewer from the existing pump station wet well at 7 Bethley Drive to the existing sewer manhole in Elliott Trail. You know, this would allow all sewer flow from Bethley Drive to flow via gravity to Elliott Trail. So, you know, any kind of pumping would no longer be required. And then the proposed alignment that we show here is essentially it's the shortest route to minimize the cross-country length. You know, we're going from the wet well. We're not trying to disturb 5 Bethley Drive, which is the parcel immediately west of 7 Bethley Drive, and then connecting to a sewer manhole in Elliott Trail, kind of where it juts out. As part of this project, we would also be abandoning and or demolishing the existing pump station. We would be removing the existing electrical pedestal that was shown in that previous photo. We'd be abandoning the existing valve pit and force main, and then we would be utilizing the existing wet well, essentially just converting it into a gravity sewer manhole, which would be, you know, the upstream end or the start of our project. For construction of the 8-inch gravity sewer, we're proposing an open cut construction. The sewer does not have to be deep, as we really have no utility conflicts to be concerned about. So we would be looking on average about 5 feet of cover for this 8-inch sewer. So call it a 6 to 7 foot deep trench, which would be about 5 to 6 feet wide, you know, to get a pipe properly installed in there. And then as part of the new sewer main or the proposed sewer main, we're also proposing to install 3 new sewer manholes, sewer manholes 1, 2, and 3, currently shown in this figure. It's the red dots. In terms of progress, as I mentioned, we're pretty far along. We're currently at about a 90% design level in terms of plans and specifications. And, you know, if all goes well, I know there's a bunch of hurdles still, but the intent would be to potentially advertise this project in fiscal year 26. So, you know, July or August of this year. And then finally, in terms of easements and the progress there, we are proposing a temporary and permanent easement for the new gravity sewer. So it would be a 30-foot wide temporary easement. And then within that 30-foot wide temporary easement would be a 20-foot permanent easement. And that easement would be required for the two properties. It would be the 42 McGill Drive property, which is kind of sandwiched in between Bethley Drive and Elliott Trail. And then also the 33 Bruce Street rear property, which is the much larger property immediately off Elliott Trail. And then for 7 Bethley Drive, as I mentioned earlier, there's an existing 25-foot easement, permanent easement. So we would be proposing a 5-foot temporary easement to make it 30 feet wide, similar to the other two properties. And where we stand with that is our professional land surveyor has developed an easement plan for these 3 properties with written descriptions, and we've forwarded that information along to the Grafton DPW. And I believe they're starting the process of, looking at having these properties appraised for these proposed land takings. So before I hand it over to Maggie, are there any questions about like the scope of the project or anything like that?
Sure, thanks. I have just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
And this is more kind of the scope approach and things like that. And obviously you have an existing easement of a 25-foot. You're looking to have a temporary construction easement. Is that what you're looking to have, that temporary 5 feet added to it?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
because we're proposing a 30-foot temporary easement for the other two properties. So just to make it consistent, we're proposing
Okay.
that additional 5 feet.
And then also on that, and just looking at your profiles and so forth, you have no finished grades on your profile. So my assumption is you're returning it to existing grades.
Exactly. Yeah, the intent
Okay.
is to exactly recreate the existing grades.
Okay. And just as general questions, will you restore the surface in kind with what's there now?
Yes, that's the intent. Maggie,
Well,
do you have anything to add to that?
we will not, like, the majority of that easement is that cross-country area is wooded. We will not be planting in the upland area. We are, as part of the mitigation plan, which I will go over, we're proposing plantings in the BBW and the 25-foot no work area.
And just to kind of, that's going to be our next step, and we'll definitely get into that because that obviously is directly related to our purview. But just as clarification for abutters, that where the easement goes through, whether you're demoing the existing pump station or whatever, you're going to restore the driveway and so forth to what is there now, correct?
Correct.
Yes, right. So yeah, anything on the 7 Bethley Drive property would be brought back to its original condition, the driveway, the landscaped area, etc.
Okay. And then obviously the next step is talking about what happens where it goes through the wooded area. Obviously, you're going to need it, whether it's 20 feet or 25 feet, whatever the dimension you need to have access to it for potential maintenance and so forth. And therefore would be there would be a number of trees taken down. And then I will just leave the kind of the key stuff as far as what happens over the wetlands that. So I'd like to just, those were my questions. I'd like to just quickly go around to our Conservation Commission members just to make sure they don't have any other questions. So Travis, any other questions on the first part of just the septic? And
So this is more logistics. I'm just realizing I received an abutters letter, even though I'm a mile
Okay.
away from this property.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Leah, I forgot to, I just put this all together. So I didn't give Leah a heads up, but I don't know if I have to recuse myself.
if you're more than 300 feet, you're not going to have, you do not have to recuse yourself.
It's in the past, it's when the subdivision does something, since I'm against the subdivision, even if it's over 300 feet, I've been recusing myself, but this is not
Right.
part of the subdivision, correct?
Gotcha.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
so-
So
The reason why the abutters on this was more inclusive is because it's 300 feet from all 3 parcels they're going to be going through, and 42 McGill is the open space of Highfields. So everyone within 300
Okay,
feet of
that's
the
why
open
it's so
space
big.
of Highfields got a notice.
Okay.
So if you got a notice, you should recuse yourself.
But that is because of, I'm looking at the lots and where it goes through. So basically the crossing area between the two house lots, that's the open space. Basically, and again, I will leave it up to Travis to determine if he wants to recuse himself. It's not just the parcels, it's the location of the work. So the question, this work is well over 300 feet from his house.
Not the way our bylaw reads.
So it's a
That's-
bylaw thing.
That's why Tufts has to do 300 feet from their property line. We had to do 300 feet from the line of Hennessy when we were doing the culvert in the middle of it. Our bylaw doesn't read the same as the act
Okay.
for the small
might be something.
project on a big lot.
So that might be
Yeah.
something we want to think about, but
Yep.
appreciate the clarification. All right,
Yeah,
Travis.
that's how we've been doing it on Highfields. When they
Okay.
have a closeout, even though they're like a mile away, I've been recusing myself. So
Okay.
I'll do that here. It's fine. with
All
me.
right. Appreciate that. And go do whatever you'd like for the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Go yell at my kids.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. All right. So, Jonathan, any other questions? Kind of more of this upfront sewer place, and then we'll get to the woods and the wetlands and so forth, and impacts to those areas.
Sure. I'm not sure how my question will layer in with that, but I'll ask it anyway. So you've got sewer manhole 1, 2, and 3 that are in the woods, or currently in the woods, and it looks like sewer manhole 3 is on a steeper side of that hillside. So when is that access going to be needed? Only in emergencies, or is it going to be cleaned out? And is there a process that needs to be defined? One of the reasons that you're citing the need is how difficult it is to access this. So I'm looking at it and saying, okay, there's a bend in the pipe where sewer manhole 3 is just south of the property line from. So I'm just wondering, how often do you have to access that space? And then during that access, what type of equipment's going to need to be in there? If there is access, is there going to be equipment in there? And how do you protect what you're kind of going through? And is that the reason to leave it unplanted? That's kind of my question. There's going to be some structures out in the woods. So, what does that look like in terms of access and maintenance, and like, does that need to be clear cut through the woods and maintain open? Just want to understand what that scope looks like.
Sure. And, I guess I don't want to speak on behalf of the DPW, but, my understanding is they would be responsible for maintaining the easement. Hopefully these manholes never have to be accessed. Typically they would only have to be accessed if it's part of a preventative maintenance program where there's a utility truck or a Vector truck that needs to come and clean out the lines. But compared to a pump station, which requires, daily visits or at a minimum, weekly visits, we wouldn't expect under routine maintenance to have vehicles access these manholes on a regular basis, maybe once every few years at most. It's a gravity system, so there's no mechanical components. It's just flow via gravity down these pipes.
Okay.
And the reason we could have potentially got away with less manholes, but the reason for manhole 3, just to the south of 7 Bethley Drive, is that we didn't want to disrupt 5 Bethley Drive and encroach on their property. So once we came down, we then had to bend to work our way toward Elliott Trail, and then the 2 manholes next to each other is just based on that sudden drop in the contours of the land. So in order to maintain a 5-foot slope, we needed a couple of manholes there to modify the pitch just for that small reach.
Okay. No, that makes sense. It sounds like it's less access than what's currently occurring. So probably a good thing for everyone. I just wasn't sure how to get to that sewer manhole 3, and I know that's not, I'm just wondering what equipment, so if that is the vac truck or the clamshell truck or something that goes out, that's the intent, is to leave, you're talking about a 5-foot trench through the woods, 5 feet deep, something like that, or 7 feet deep. So when that's patched back, is it gravel? Is it, what's the finished condition of that easement?
Maggie, do you
it'll
want
be
to
s-
answer that?
Yeah, the easement will be seeded. It will not be gravel. So it'll be restored to pre-construction conditions, and we will seed it. And we will also allow, we can't allow, woody vegetation over in the permanent easement because they could, potentially damage the integrity of the pipe. So the 5-foot temper easement on either side would be allowed to revegetate naturally.
I don't have any other questions.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks. Amara, have any questions?
I don't have a question, I think, right now. I do have one
Okay.
later when we talk more about wetlands. But I
Perfect.
did want to mention that I live on Bruce Street. I don't think I received any kind of a butter notification, but figured I should mention that. I don't know if I'm in the 300-foot zone.
So you would have gotten a return receipt notification. So it wouldn't have been just a letter.
Okay. I don't think I've gotten anything, so I think
Okay. I don't
I'm
know
okay.
if Leah, if you have the list.
It's massive.
Okay.
Let me do some looking in the background.
Okay. Sure, we'll continue to do that. So I'll hand it
Thanks.
back to the applicant to continue on and get into the easement, especially through the wetlands.
Okay, so my name is Magdalena Lofsted. I'm a wetland scientist with CDM Smith. So if you could go to the next slide. Here we go. So I just wanted to go over the wetland resources that are present on the site. So we did the wetland delineation back in May of last year, and we will be impacting the BVW, bordering vegetated wetland, which is shown here in blue. And then there is a tributary to the Quinsigamond River that runs along the east side of the site. And so we do have a 100-foot and a 200-foot riverfront area, both shown in orange. And then in yellow is the 25-foot no work zone. So any questions on the delineation, or should I just, I'll just finish the presentation. We can take the questions at the end. So
Please do.
the wetland crossing of the BVW is about 70 linear feet. So it's not a long crossing. And we have talked about the 20-foot permanent easement that's required with the 5-foot additional temporary easement on either side. We're proposing to install staked compost logs shown here on at the limit of the 30-foot temporary easement. The total impact to the BVW is about 2,120 square feet, and that's the area shown in gray here. So what we're proposing to do is stockpile the topsoil from the BVW separately, so we can use that when we restore the wetland. And we're hoping then that would provide a seed source, and the wetland would be restored to pre-construction conditions, and then we'll be seeding it with a we typically use the New England wet mix. And if you slide over to the right a little bit, right, that is the restoration planting plan. So we're proposing to plant shrubs in the temporary easement because we can't plant, woody vegetation in a permanent easement. So we picked 3 native species. We have the northern arrowwood, spice bush, and silky dogwood. So we're proposing to plant those in clusters of 3 10-foot on center. And we included plantings within the 25-foot no work zone as well. I guess I should have mentioned it when we do the we do not pull any stumps outside of the trench area. So we just cut the trees at grade level. So the only place we'll actually pull the stumps is within the limits of the trench. We're proposing a 2-year post-construction monitoring of the BVW area. And that's in accordance with the amended Massachusetts Inland Wetlands Replication Guidelines, and we provided that in the notice of intent. We are requesting a waiver to the Grafton bylaw regulation, section IE, I believe it is. And we included a discussion of compliance with the performance standards for limited projects. Oops, I should have started with that we are filing it as a limited project under 310 CMAR 1053 3D. But we're fully meeting the performance standards for limited projects as well as work within BVW. So I guess I'll open it up to questions.
All right. So I'll start with a couple of quick ones. You indicated obviously you've gone out and you're showing the delineation on this plan. Has that been approved yet? Has the Conservation Commission had an opportunity to review and approve that line? Or are you looking to have that done as part of this notice of intent?
Oh, we're looking to have that done as part of the notice of intent. We did not file a separate RDA or NRAD.
Okay, and that's fine. I'm just asking. And then you had mentioned that the stumps are left. Is that only in the wetlands or is that throughout the rest of the wooded area too?
That's a question for, well, Chad, do you know? I'm not 100% sure.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
So just mention that, the stumps are going to get left, and I assume that was for the wetlands, but I'm
Right.
just checking to make sure that we're all clear that that does not include the upland areas.
I believe that the stumps gets pulled within the permanent easement.
Okay. And I just want it for
That's my
clarification.
understanding. Yeah.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Otherwise, DPW is going to be out there a lot cutting back those trees. So,
There aren't that many large trees within the BVW, to be honest with you. It's mainly shrubs, and there's a lot of privet in there. It's a lot of privet all throughout this area, I noticed when I was out there.
okay. All right.
So
So I'll go.
hopefully our plantings might outcompete some of that.
Yes, that would be nice. So, those were really my questions. I think, as far as I'll go around to the rest of the conservation commissioners and see if they have any questions regarding, your plans here, the delineation, and also the restoration plan as far as the plantings and so forth. So, Jonathan, anything else to ask as far as this portion of work within the wetlands?
I don't have a specific question, but I mean, I know there's most likely some conditions that Leah would go through, so I don't know if that's coming next, but.
Yep.
So no questions. I'll wait until after that.
Okay, sounds good. Travis, anything?
He's off camera and recusing himself.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Yep. I'm sorry. Amara?
Yeah, so I have a question. I took a look at the biomap for this area, and I saw that the area right across the road is a critical natural landscape. And I guess I just wanted to ask if anybody had any concerns about any impact that this might have to that area right across the road. And maybe not, but I just figured I'd mention it.
No, no, that's it. No, so I think it's good to understand those biomaps. Biomaps are a great resource for the Conservation Commission and other regulatory folks, and understanding that it's not a requirement of a regulation like a natural heritage, species or habitat area. So it's different. It was definitely created with the thought of this would be a great tool for people, and it has not, to my knowledge, been presented to become some sort of regulatory, but it is something that we should look at. So, um, so that's something that's a good question. Um, I don't think anything, I don't know where the north arrow is on this plan. Um, Anything on the plan east of Elliott Trail, nothing's really going to go over to the west side of it, and that's where if that's where that you know biomap is, we shouldn't impact it. But it's a good question, and we'll bring that up with the applicant too. Um, yeah, but it's not on the east side, I'm guessing is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, it's like right across the road. And I know in the map earlier, there were at least some flags being
So
placed in that area.
yeah, so this is Magdalena again. So yes, I did delineate the wetlands on that side, just adjacent to Elliott Trail, but we're not proposing any work there. It's just so I could get the the offsets and the buffer zones.
Okay.
But no, there's no work on the other side of Elliott Trail, and we don't anticipate that there would be no impact to that BVW or to that habitat.
Sounds good.
Um,
Thanks.
any other questions?
Mm-mm.
So I do have one other question, more of a technical question. Looking at your profile, you're showing that you have done, borings out there and so forth. And on the one closest to the existing sewer manhole end at the lower end at Elliott Trail, your I don't know if it's seasonal high, but the groundwater indicated here is fairly high, obviously, because there's a wetlands right there. The piping and the connections that are you using, is there anything special that you're doing to make sure that it's watertight?
So, we would be utilizing PVC pipe, which has 14-foot joint spacing, gaskets to make it watertight. And then the connection to the manhole, we would be recommending a rubber boot, which is watertight as well. So yeah, the intent is definitely to keep out groundwater infiltration.
All right, thanks. So the fact that you're using gasket is the key part that I was looking for,
Mhm.
as opposed to push on or something else. So, okay, so that was all the questions I had. Leah, you want to do your report out?
Or, so they are still waiting on their DEP number, so we won't be able to close tonight. I did also check the CR that we have in the works, with Highfields for the open space. And there is language in there reserving the right for utility easements, so that won't be a problem. Jan, if you can pull up, the GIS map for this area. The one question I wanted to throw to the commission, or maybe also to the applicant, is proximity to there's a potential vernal pool on, I think it falls on, maybe not 42 McGill, maybe it's the Elliott
33
Trail
rear
open
Bruce.
space. And I just wanted to know how close this is going to be to that vernal pool, and then throw to the commission if they wanted to consider requiring exploration and or certification of that pool.
Is that a
Is-
potential vernal pool or a certified vernal pool?
Potential.
Potential, yeah. I mean, I did not see any indications of, well, there is one area that does pool water, but it's not located that far up. It's, if you go back to the plan, it's, I can show you where it is. It's sort of, not to the not to just go back to the sheet, the design plan. See where it says limit of 100 foot right at the lower end of the blue? And it's kind of, that's where there's a little pooling of water.
So I guess I
If-
think the one question that Leah's asking is obviously there's a GIS location on it, and we're wondering how close it is to the proposed work.
So it would be, I would say, probably 50 or 60 feet.
Okay. So the question is if it is that close, then it's probably worth just looking at it. It's I don't know if it's the right time of year
No, it would be
exactly.
actually. Yeah, it would be right time of the year. So
So at least you could do an assessment of it
yeah, I'd be happy to.
to understand it, and then I don't know if that would change anything that you're doing from a construction standpoint, but again, it may just mean during certain dates of, migration and so forth that you might not do anything. But other than that, it's really about understanding the location of it, how close it is, whether it is a vernal pool or not. That would be very helpful. So,
Yes, I can certainly do that.
anything else on that, Leah? Or
Nope, that's all I have.
okay. So at this point, just to kind of recap, we've been presented the kind of the technical and the wetlands components of this. And what we'd like to do now is open up to any of the abutters or any of the public. If you have any questions about this particular project or any specific questions about what the process is going to be, give you a little preview. We do not have a DEP number, which is a routine that we get from the state, from the Department of Environmental Protection. We can't close a hearing without that number. So this particular hearing we will ask the applicant to continue this to our next hearing until we get that DEP number. We can't issue an order of conditions without it. Plus, as part of that, getting the number, we will also get comments from DEP, which is the state Department of Environmental Protection. They also take a look at this and also send us potentially comments and so forth. So with that kind of setup of what's coming up next, if anyone has any questions or comments, please raise your hand, even if you're just looking to, make some comments on this particular project. So Jan, I'll leave it up to you.
We have John Riches raising his hand.
Please do your thing.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. John Riches, 7 Elliott Trail.
Thank you. You have the
So-
floor.
The proposed project is right next door to my house in 7 Elliott Trail, so I'm probably the most interested person in the neighborhood. While you're checking the butters list, I wondered what the rules are, because we talked an awful lot about the Bethley property and then the McGill land, but the biggest part of it is what you've been referring to as a rear lot from Bruce Street, which is actually part of the Hassamasset Village neighborhood that I live in, and it's owned by the 67 homeowners here. So I have no clue whether the abutters list included those 67 homeowners because it's their property. We're not actually abutters, we're actually part of the project. So that's one comment. The second comment here is, when I did look through some of the plans online, it seemed to talk about putting stuff back to the conditions that there were before. But now what I'm hearing is it looks like we're going to have a 20-foot road through this the open space straight up to Bethley, to the backyard of somebody's house. That's going to be planted maybe with some grasses, and that it will require access from Elliott Trail, not up the terrible hill in the back of Bethley. So it's going to require the easement, which has not been established yet. And as far as I know, you don't have permission or easement from the homeowners or the homeowners association to do that. Then you would have to have access to this easement cut through the forest here. So I don't know how you address being able to plan all this without an easement, without permission from the homeowners. I also then have another question about the disturbing of the wetlands. So yes, I haven't looked at the maps recently, but I thought that most of that open space was designated as wetlands or wooded wetlands or what did we call it? Like a field, wetland fields. I forget what the exact terms are. So, but the portion that you show as actual wetlands is actually very tiny compared to the whole lot size. So I'm kind of skeptical as to whether we've designated the whole thing based on previous surveys or new surveys, but it doesn't look like it includes a lot. The place where you say that the potential vernal pool is, looks like it was actually the replicated wetlands that was done at the beginning of this development, part of which was to clear my house of problems because they decimated, put my house where wetlands were supposed to be. And I'm just not sure why we don't know what's in there. I suspect that it probably could be one of the dreaded vernal pools. There are also seasonal streams and I don't know what you call them, arroyos, all around where this proposed work is done that feed into the culverts that do go across under the street to the more highly protected wetlands across the street. So definitely that culvert needs to be protected, which I think was designated on the map. But I also think that there's a lot more wetlands habitat that you'd be disturbing than the small portion that you kept talking about upland. I don't know if there's anything other than wooded wetlands up that way. And then there is wildlife in there that might be important to Conservation Commission. I'm not sure, but there are turtles that live in there. I don't know if they're the dreaded eastern box turtles that are protected, but I think that there really does need to be a more thorough survey done by the Conservation Commission before access and conditions are granted. I can't think of anything else at the moment. I think that's enough. Can somebody kind of respond to some of those?
Sure, I'll go through them. So first of all, as far as the delineation of the wetlands, that is set by
Mhm.
regulations. So when I asked the question about has this wetland delineation been approved, what I was asking is that, had it been previously approved or do we approve it as part of this
Mhm.
notice of intent? So typically when we have a wetlands like this here, we have a peer consultant go out and actually review the flags that are shown on the plans. And they review it based on state regulations as what is defined as a bordering vegetated wetland. And that's what this area is. And based on these plans, it's in the area that was highlighted or shaded in gray. That's what's defined in the state regulations. So when you're looking at a wetland area, there's three components to it. There is the vegetation, which is a key one for Massachusetts, but there's also the soil and where the seasonal high groundwater is. So
Mhm.
those three components is what delineates a wetland. So we have an outside consultant that goes out and actually confirms the wetland line for the town, as no one on this commission has the expertise.
Mhm.
I might have worked in civil engineering for 30 years and I've seen lots of wetlands. I'm not qualified to go out and delineate wetlands. I know it when I see it, but I'm not the professional that needs to review it. So
Okay.
we typically would have an outside peer reviewer review this. This is also, Leah, this is also going to go to Graves or,
I had not initiated either peer review. I would like to
okay.
hear what the commission would like.
All right, that's great. And typically this is a utility going through a quarter. We'll have a discussion on whether we should have it peer reviewed because the impacts are really to the wetlands itself. So we'll probably have a discussion around engaging a peer reviewer just to make sure that everyone understands that it's not just the applicant submitting their information on the wetland delineation, we also check it. So we want to make sure that's clear.
Good.
So as far as, what the remaining, what the surface is going to be look like afterwards, that's why I asked a lot of questions about where the driveway is, what that's being restored to. Also, this is a utility and you're going through wooded area. They need to maintain, and it's going to be 20 feet wide of no trees. Yes, there'll be some sort of grass meadow mix put in the upland, meaning the whole hill will have that look to it. It's up to uh, you know DPW to maintain that so you don't have woody plants, trees and stuff growing up, so that they may mow it once a year or once every couple of years. But it's not my understanding based on this public hearing. It's not meant to be like a mowed grass or anything like that. It'll be more of a meadow type of mix in there. There's different you know, mixes that you can use for seeds to kind of, have it more of a meadow look for it and be appropriate to the fact that it's on a steep hill, therefore it's pretty dry and those type of things. That's part of the submission that we'll look at. That's why I went through all those questions, because even though up near the road and going down the driveway, that's all got to get restored in kind. Where it goes through the lawn on the lot, it's going to get restored in kind. Once you hit those woods, you will have, there's no question around it, you will have a 20-foot wide area of grass going through it. Yep, it's like any other, unfortunately, utility line going through something. You want to have access to it in the future, and you don't want woody vegetation, trees, and so forth growing over a sewer line, then impacting the roots, impacting it. That's a given. Down where the wetlands are, basically it's a little bit different, because what they talked about was basically taking the soil in the wetlands, which is called hydric soils. We will probably have some conditions in our order of conditions, which is what gets issued eventually if we approve it. And those there would include like how you're going to protect that hydric soil, because it's usually different. What a wetland soil is different than an upland soil. So it's a great idea to take that existing soil, since nothing's getting built, it's something's getting put under the ground, so you can clear that area. You can stockpile it. The key thing is you need to protect it so it doesn't dry out and so forth. And then when they finish that last leg of the sewer line, then you would take that native soil and put it back where it is. For us, that's a big concern, because it has the characteristics of hydric soil. It's natural. It has all of the kind of things that are created in a hydric soil of seeds and different kind of little buggies things and stuff, other things that make a wetland a wetland. So the idea of taking it, saving it, and putting it back is great from our perspective. We just make sure it's protected. Those are the type of things that we will discuss in detail. Once you get kind of outside of that wetland area and get outside of kind of the buffer zones, that's our jurisdictions. The only other thing that we would be concerned about is, making sure you don't create a big swale down your easement, and then for concentrate, flow and so forth. That's why when I asked the question about grading, you're going to restore it to existing conditions. We don't want to alter the drainage patterns of that hill coming down. We want it to go the same way that it's always gone. As far as other drainage discharges and so forth, I didn't see anything close to this easement. There's probably plenty throughout the subdivision and so forth. Anything that had, any swale or anything that crosses this area, they need to restore it and maintain it and those type of things. That's where the key thing about putting it back, the grading the way it was. So we'll definitely look at that. And then we'll have a discussion whether we should have a peer reviewer kind of look on that side. For the utilities, probably that's a little bit unusual for the commission to ask for that, but we will have a discussion around that. And so and please let me know if I missed something, because I kind of was going off of memory.
No, you did great. I think the wetlands creatures there, again, I worry about them, but I don't worry that much, but you guys usually worry about them.
So yeah, and again, this goes back to when you're talking about more the habitat component of
Mhm.
it. There's a difference between normal habitat and, versus like a rare species or something. And that's really done through, it's usually mapped and so forth through the state. And then there's a whole process that would need to go through that. In fact, if there was a rare species out there, we would then actually be having a separate permit through natural heritage through the state to deal with those rare species. At this point, if you were to look at the Massachusetts GIS system that has all the mapping on it, this area wouldn't show up as something with rare species on it and
Okay.
so forth.
So I have a question that's probably more for the other folks, the sewer department or their proxies there is, so this flow that's coming down from Beth Lee, right? Is this going to impact the sewer drainage for the Hassanesset Village people? So obviously I'm right where you're going to add flow into the pipes. Is this going to cause any kind of backups or anything like that? Have they studied that to make sure that we're not overwhelming that existing, or at least my edge end of the bottom of at the bottom of the hill, the existing drain,
So
sewer drainage?
yeah, so that's typically not something that we would respond to, but
Yeah.
we have the right people here.
Mhm.
So just for being efficient, if someone from the town that has this have looked at it, if you could do a brief response to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk or you want to go?
I can just add something quick, Paul.
Sure.
So we are proposing to connect to the existing Elliott Trails sewer at a manhole where the pipe upsizes from 8-inch to 15-inch. So all the flow that comes from Bethley Drive, and it is only 9 homes, that would be connecting essentially to the 15-inch pipe. So from a capacity perspective, there's plenty of additional capacity to take flow from those 9 homes.
In these type of questions, not typically gone through through the Conservation Commission, but we're here so we can answer them. And if you do have further questions around kind of the sewer service, the capacities, I would reach out to DPW and so forth to make sure
Yeah. Well,
they can probably answer.
Paul's been good about getting back to us on,
Yep.
on things, but just wanted to make sure that that happens. And reminder to Paul and everybody that you need to figure out how to get the easements and stuff in place. I don't have a big problem with this, although 20 feet is pretty damn wide to have a kind of a grassy road going through this open space that we own. So that's a
Just
little offsetting.
speaking from a engineer who's done a lot of these type of
Mm.
projects, they're 20 feet. In 5-10 years, they will not be 20 feet, but they need to keep a clear path.
Mhm.
That's pretty standard. That's
Yeah.
a standard approach to an easement,
Okay.
especially something going down a steep hill through woods. It's, unless there's some other different approach, but that's pretty standard for the industry and for utility easements. So,
Okay.
all right.
That's about it. Paul, you got a comment?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if you don't, I can speak just about the easements that the town already has. And just for some background for everybody. So CDM designed the entire sewer system in the town from the 70s to today. So there's probably between 10 and 20 miles of cross-country sewer line in this community. It goes from the Shrewsbury border at Tufts Job Corps all the way to South Grafton, follows the Blackstone, Quinsigamon rivers, goes under the Mass Pike, follows Axtell Brook, north and south, through the woods, through the swamps. So we have easements, all over town. And the best example for everybody that I always like to point out, everybody, there's an easement across the 9th fairway and the 9th green at the golf course that comes from Stratton Road and Rittenhouse Road. And the sewer line from Elliott Trail actually crosses private property. There's an early learning center, crosses their property, crosses Providence Road, goes down through private property, and ties into the main line at the Quinsigamon River, which follows the Quinsigamon River from the bottom of Church Street all the way to Arcadia Street. We as a department, there's 6 staff members at the sewer department who are responsible for everything, the treatment system, the collection system, and everything that goes along with that. So we do not maintain the easements in a drivable state at all. Every easement that the community owns at this point is, after a certain amount of time, goes back to what it looked like before we were there. This takes a long time for large trees to grow. And as Maggie said, there's a lot of just scrub brush, briars, whatever you guys in your fields call that material that's there now. And as far as we would just let it go as a department. We would not be mowing it. We would not be planting. And if God forbid we ever needed to get down into it, at that point, then we would cut a path to get in to do whatever we needed to do and
Okay.
limit any disturbance that we
So,
would.
yeah. So it won't be actively,
No,
opened.
you would
Uh,
probably never see anybody there, and a lot of times people actually end up using it for an easy access into open space that they otherwise wouldn't be able to access.
Mhm.
We do. I can take you for a walk across town to any easement that we have, and it's never been clear because we just haven't done it. And we have areas that are much more difficult to access than this.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I'm okay with that. It looks like though it's going to be, if you have to access it, you're probably going to access from Elliott Trail, because the other way is again through a homeowner's private property with a hill and all this other stuff. So you'll just have to make accommodations there, and maybe a cut in the wooden guardrail that's there.
we have the system, and I'll gloat about it because it's really good. I mean, we don't have sewer overflows. The system's not that old, and
Mhm.
they make equipment nowadays, jetter trucks and everything else, and you could get from Elliott Trail almost to 7 Bethley Drive without actually going into the woods.
Right.
Cameras that can travel the whole length.
Yeah.
So we would. There really would never be any reason for us to be even back there. It would,
Okay.
we like to be, as I said in one of my emails to you, John. We want you to flush your toilet, have it go away, and never think about us.
Never think about it. Yeah.
That's our goal.
Okay,
So-
good. Oh, well, thank you. That's all the questions I had. I appreciate it. And we'll follow what happens here.
All right. Thank you. Jan, anyone else?
Yep, we have Rick. I'm going to allow him to speak.
All right. Rick, if you have a question, please give your name and address and please ask the question.
Yes, this is Rick Ross, 1 Bethley Drive.
You have the floor. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I coordinated the implementation of the sewerage at Bethley Drive back 30 plus years ago with our neighbors. At that time, the town didn't have the funds to do it. We paid for it, working with Phil Platt, David Terrian. It worked out fine. The pumping station intended to be a temporary solution with the connection down to Elliott Trail. At that time, Elliott Trail, Hassamasset didn't exist. Foster Yaden was still in the planning stage, but my understanding was the town was going to take an easement through to connect to that. Now, I think it was Chad, if I got his name right, has been mentioning 9 houses. There's only 7. So the flow is for 7 houses, not 9 houses. As for conservation, the other thing is, if you recall, and you look at the maps, Bruce Hollow at, I don't know, the Bruce Street side of it has what I will call a detention basin that in high waters catches it, and it runs behind my house and Bruce Street. And I think that feeds what you're calling the conservation or the swamp wet area. But other than that, and Bruce Brook, I don't understand how much water is really going down there that you're concerning, with wetlands. Because again, I don't understand wetlands, but I know you have that run, but that's only when there's lots of rain, lots of snow, lots of flow. And then many times it runs right behind my house. There's no water running there. And I know Bruce Brook running down isn't really a heavy flow either. So I'm not sure how much water is really coming down into that Elliott Trail area. Now, I've lived here for many years, and that field down there was a meadow. And when my children were growing up, we would walk down between Bethleigh and Elliott Trail, and it was an open meadow. And I imagine that's obvious by look at the age of those trees and the length of the trees. So just for information, if anybody wants to know any history on this whole development of the sewer line and these pumps, the 2 pumps, and by the way, the sewer department has been outstanding in coming every single day and checking those and taking care of them. They've been wonderful. And this isn't being driven by us. I mean, we still have our sewer running every single day. But if there's any background that anyone wants to know, I have all the records, I have all the design. And like I say, David Terrian and Phil Platt were wonderful in the design. And it was always the intent was to connect down to that development as it came about.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate the background. I think, we're looking at it. We only, we're the Conservation Commission. We basically look at what is regulated under the state regulations and what's under the town bylaw and so forth. So it's a relatively small area of what is going down the hill, but it is at the bottom there. That's why they're in front of us. And that's kind of that's what's driving us to have this permit application and then review it and then at a certain point issue a permit for it. So appreciate the information. Thank you. All right, Jan.
Evan McGann raised their hand.
All right. If you have anything to add, please speak up. Don't see them.
Yeah, it looks like they lowered it.
Okay. All right. Oh, now they're up again. You should be able to speak now. Oh. I don't know if he's having issues. So you're raising your hand and then dropping it. So you should, if you are connected to your computer, be able to just speak to us because we've unmuted you.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we can. No problem.
Right.
Just your name and address, please.
Yeah, Evan McGann for.
Oops. Now, if you try again. Not sure, not hearing you now. We've heard you for a minute there. The joy of remote hearings. So, Evan, we cannot hear you at the moment. Jan, if anything else is going on here.
Let me see.
Hear me again? Sorry.
Yes. Yep. No problem. Please, your
Connection
name and
issue.
address, and
Yeah.
let us know if you have any questions or comments.
4 Bethleigh Drive, Evan McGann, across the cul-de-sac from 7 Bethleigh Drive. Just questions, seem to be a lot of questions about the sewer plans. And so I just wanted to ask if there was an opportunity, any other meetings that are set that those questions can be directed to, so that we don't necessarily, because I mean, that seems to be where a lot of the questions are, right? So what is there to know as a resident about where those questions should be answered?
Are you talking the actual sewer line? I mean, I think you can reach out
Any
to.
questions that are related to like the sewer commissioner or the proposed plans or changes to the sewer lines in drainage and that kind of thing.
So as far as the Conservation Commission, yes, our jurisdiction has to do with both the Wetlands Protection Act or the wetlands, and then any kind of stormwater. But in this case here, we really don't have a lot of jurisdiction over the stormwater
Mhm.
because there's just not a lot here. As far as specific questions from, as far as specific questions around the sewer, I mean, you can certainly reach out to, the town and the DPW and to Paul, and ask questions. I don't know if there's going to be any public meetings on that, but
Yeah.
they've been based on, a previous, testimony here that they've been very responsive, and I think that's something that you can do if you have specific questions on from a pure sanitary standpoint.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right. Anything else? Anyone else?
Nothing further, but Rick and John both have their hand raised. I'm not sure if they intend to say anything else.
Looks like Rick is off. No, Rick is still on, but if John, you have anything else? Oh, thank you very much.
No. Yes,
Okay.
there we go. I
Yep.
just wanted to jump back on and thank Rick and Evan for their comments. And I can't speak for everyone, but I don't believe that the Hassanesset Village people want to get in any way in the way of this as good neighbors to the folks up at Bethley. We just really want to make sure we understand what's going on and that we that we give permission for this thing over the shared property. So otherwise, I think it's great for the people in Bethley, and I think it'll be okay with everybody here. So that's all. Oh,
Appreciate that.
can you tell me what BVW stands for?
Oh, sure. I should have said that. It's bordering vegetated wetlands. I
Okay.
said bordering vegetated wetlands. It's a
Yeah.
term that's in the regulations.
That's fine. I just couldn't figure out. I got too many acronyms I deal with on a day-to-day basis, so.
No, I totally
Another
understand.
good one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, kind of next steps, going back to the applicant and so forth, is that we do not have a DEP number. Is there anything else that you have to ask before we ask you if you'd like to do a continuation?
I don't have anything.
I
Okay.
don't as well.
All right. Leah, is there anything else as far as housekeeping that we should do at this point?
Nope.
I think that the only other thing is whether, I mean, you guys are requesting a waiver from our local bylaw for the work within 25 feet, but we can take care of that next time. The only other one, it would be, if we want to have a peer reviewer to go out and look at the wetlands line. So I'll quickly go around, the commission and get their kind of feedback on that. So gonna kind of reverse it. Travis, as far as your take on whether we should have Art go out and take a look at the wetlands just to make sure everyone's covered.
Hey, I'm back, but still recusing myself.
Okay, sorry. Thank
Unless you
you.
moved on to the next hearing and I missed it.
No. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Jonathan.
Based on the vernal pool question, is that part of what Art or a third party would validate or
Yep.
verify?
Definitely.
I mean, if it's close enough and, if Leah and staff is flagging that, then I think that's part of a reason to at least get a
Yep.
second opinion there. So
That sounds good.
I think there's reason to.
Okay, Amira?
Yeah, I'm with Jonathan. I'm concerned about the potential vernal pool being really close to that work that's being done. So I think as long as we're taking a look at that and just verifying that it isn't or is in fact a vernal pool, I think that works for me.
All right. Thanks. So Leah, as far as that goes, it sounds like the commission is looking to kind of have, I mean, it's the area is not that large, but to have our peer reviewer for, wetland delineation go out there.
Okay.
So go back to the applicant. Is that an issue for you guys?
Nope, not with me.
Okay. All right,
I
thanks. So
I actually have a
ahead.
question because, when you're looking at that on Mass GIS, where the location of that potential vernal pool, it actually shows it like being on the slope. So I'm not so sure exactly where, I may have been incorrect when I assumed that that was that pool that, is about 60 feet from our
Yep.
project area because that's so close to the road. So, but I'm happy to go out and take a look at a wider area and go outside our project area to see if I can identify what they meant.
Right. And for us, it's really understanding how close it is
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
project so that, that's kind of the question we'd like to, does it actually look like a potential vernal pool? And is it 10 feet or 150 feet away? That's really, it's the big question, just so that we can, have a sense of it. And if it's far enough away, this project, we may not ask this project to look at that, but it would be
Okay.
nice to have you have some eyes on it and so forth. So, Leah, have I missed anything at this point?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, so I would go back to the applicant. Obviously, as the applicant, you get to request a continuance. We do not have a DEP number, but it's up to you if you want to request the continuance.
Yes, we would like to request a continuance.
All right, thank you very much. Having heard that, I will not call on Travis again. I will ask someone else to do have a motion to continue this hearing until next meeting, which is the first meeting in May. Really? Wow,
May
Uh,
6th.
May
I'll
6th.
move.
Okay.
I'll move to continue the hearing for 7 Bethley Drive, 33R Bruce Street, 42 McGill Drive, Town of Grafton Sewer Line Extension 256.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to continue it. We'll do a roll call vote. Since you're on my screen, Amira, you get to go first.
I forgot what, do I just say yes?
Yes is fine. Yes is
Okay.
we're continuing it.
Sorry,
Yep.
I always forget this
No.
part. Yes.
No, that's okay. Jonathan.
Yes.
And I am also a yes, the motion carries. And Travis recused himself many times before I actually got it that he was recusing himself. So we are continued to that. So all the folks online here from the neighborhood, we will have a date certain. We'll date certain for May 6th, and the time is going to be based on how many continuances and other things that we have at that time. But you'll be able to see that in the posted agenda if you'd like to join us again. So absolutely no reason not to. Other than that, thank you. I think we're all set. Yep. Thank you. All right, Leah.
Thank you.
All right. Next one. So at the 7:35, Leah?
Yep.
Okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for vegetation management plan all along the commuter rail right away in Grafton. And who's here to speak to that?
This is Matt Donovan here from Benish. I'm here to represent Keolis.
You've got the floor, sir.
All right, I'll start. I can pull up the maps if you'd like, unless if you'd like to.
Yeah, we don't have sharing, so Jan is our magician.
Perfect. Yep, that's all I was gonna do.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm here to represent Keolis for this RDA to confirm the accuracy of the maps used for vegetation management along the commuter rail right of way. We submit this RDA to your commission every 5 years, required by CMR 11. And it's required to get these determinations before submitting the 5-year vegetation management plan to MDAR. The VMP is designed to manage and control vegetation necessary to keep the railroad in operation safe, and regulations are in place to keep the sensitive areas protected throughout the duration of the plan. These sensitive area restrictions are listed and described in CMR 11.04, as well as our vegetation management plan. The maps we provide you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan, but often dictate where mechanical methods will be used due to chemical restrictions. Each year, there are 2 chemical applications, one in the May to June timeframe that targets the roadbed, and one in the August-September timeframe that targets the brush and areas adjacent to the roadbed. The sensitive areas marked with blue and yellow on the maps are restricted from the brush program and only receive the roadbed application, which is what I'll focus on because that's the only chemical program taking place in the sensitive areas of your jurisdiction. But if you do have any questions about the brush program and the areas adjacent to the roadbed, I'd be happy to answer those as well. The roadbed application is performed by a spray truck that drives on the track and is equipped with nozzles on the backside, located about 18 inches above the ground, spraying the solution directly down onto the track. The truck has arms with nozzles on the arms that apply the solution to target the shoulders of the roadbed up to 12 feet from the center of track. The certified applicator is always accompanied by an environmental monitor familiar with the site conditions and equipped with these maps, instructing the operator as necessary. The applicator has the ability to turn the nozzles off, or in many cases, just the side nozzles where it's targeting the shoulder, or maybe getting close to the buffer zone of the sensitive areas, and they can just do that with the flick of a switch. The yellow zones will never receive application to the shoulders. However, in many cases, it will still receive application directly down onto the ties where it needs to be totally free of vegetation. And that'll be done at the environmental monitor and applicator's discretion to stay in conformance with the regulations. The blue zones typically represent being between 10 and 100 feet of the sensitive areas. And these zones typically receive the full roadbed treatment. However, in these areas, the environmental monitor and applicator are on alert. If there's any standing water or anything in the ditches, they'll shut the nozzles off as necessary as they're driving down the track. The light blue zones get sprayed once every year, and just that roadbed program, like I mentioned, and the dark blue zones, which are more, I don't know if you have any dark blue zones in your town, but those are more DEP zones and water supply areas. Those will only receive the roadbed treatment every other year. In these blue and yellow zones, due to the limited spray, more effort is put into controlling the vegetation with manual and mechanical measures, especially in the areas adjacent to the track where they're not able to do that brush program. The chemicals that they use each year vary and are typically chosen by the certified applicator. With that said, all chemicals are taken from the right-of-way approved sensitive area material list, made specifically for right-of-ways provided by Mass DAR. And each year's mixture is included in the yearly operational plan that we send to your commission, as well as the Board of Health and the Select Board. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the maps or the work that's done each year, but we are seeking a positive 2A determination to confirm the maps, as well as a negative determination for the work included in the vegetation management plan.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Leah since she has a good report to kind of read out as far as we do this every so often but Leah, if you want to kind of just educate us.
Sure. So this filing is under the act only, not our bylaws. We do issue determinations for vegetation management plans in 5-year increments. So this would be a 5-year determination as opposed to the usual 3. The data that they're showing on their maps matches what we have. I have one question on page 2. The area to the west kind of shows yellow on the south side of the tracks, but not the north side. Jan, if you can maybe zoom in kind of around where you can see Westboro Road, the label of Westboro Road. Zoom in one more time. It's right in the middle of your screen now. The reason I'm asking about this spot is there's a potential vernal pool there. which we might need to compare to the GIS because I don't see the dot for the pool on their map. Sorry, I didn't give you a heads up there, Jan.
So this area, it seems that in the field, I would think that on the north side of the track where it's blue, the wetland would be more than 22 feet away from the center line of track. And when I say 22 feet, it would be it's because from the center line of track, we're applying the solution to 12 feet from the center line of track, and then you need to keep that 10-foot buffer. So when these areas are marked in the field with the plates, that's what we're looking for. So I would assume on the south side of the track, it's within that 22-foot buffer from the center line of track, as opposed to the north side. And then obviously at the culvert, both sides, the entire both sides are yellow. That near like in where it says CSX transportation, like in the TRA area of the transportation word. Does that answer your question?
Probably. I just need to take a quick look at the GIS if you're able to pull that up, Jan. Just don't quite remember where it fell. If you can turn on the National Wetlands Inventory, then the shapes should match. Okay. So it's the one to the
It's the right
let's
of
see.
Institute. Yeah.
Right. The one in the light green
Yep.
pool. That was the one I was asking about. So if we can correlate that back to the plan.
It looks like there was a yellow area there. Nope, it goes just to the right of that. Just where the CTP is. It looks like you can see it on the aerial that there's a flat area that could potentially be a vernal pool. It would be
Hold on,
good just to
just-
overlay it, yeah. Because you can
Let
see
me-
the building and,
Let me look at something in the background here. You guys can.
oh, that's the Institute Road is over here.
Yeah,
Okay.
this has Discovery Drive on it. I'm wondering if I called out the wrong plan sheet. If you want to do your questions while I figure this out in the background, sorry about that.
Sure. I mean, again, this is something we do on a regular basis. It's great that staff kind of goes through this with a fine tooth comb and so forth. So I will go around to see if anyone has any comments or questions. I'll start with Travis since I kept calling him out the last time, but this time I can actually call him out.
I
Any
don't have any. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Amira, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question about some of the areas that were marked as no treatment zones. So if you go to the first page of this, thank you. You'll see up in the top right-hand corner that the no treatment zone is kind of to the right of the area of the oh my goodness, the wetland marker rather than being like right next to it. And I guess I was just wondering why that is.
Well, it's the applicant. I think it's where the culverts are. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the yellow zone is where the actual culvert is. It shows there's the blue intermittent stream that you see crossing the track just northeast of that yellow zone. And I think that's just a discrepancy between where the culvert actually is in the field versus where that blue stream is shown on the map. But that yellow zone is encompassing both those marks on either side of the culvert, where the water will be getting closer to the tracks.
That's located from the field? Is that a field
Excuse-
location? The yellow is the field location of the actual culvert?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then my next question was, how will the no treatment zones be marked? Just like to prevent mistakes.
Yeah, so they have they'll have these maps in the trucks, and these maps correspond. So everywhere where it goes from blue to yellow, or from white to blue, there's going to be marks in the field directly onto the tracks. We have little plastic plates that so that, for instance, at that culvert there will be a blue and a yellow plate right directly on the ties that the applicator will be able to see as they're driving down the track. And then after the culvert, there will be another yellow, blue, to put you back into that blue zone as you move forward down the tracks. And we did go out and update these markings. They do get faded and damaged over time, or even missing sometimes. So we did go update these markings. I believe we did this line in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, to prepare for this RDA.
Sounds good. I have no other questions.
All right, great. Jonathan.
I don't have anything.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I don't really have any questions. Leah, anything else as far as the vernal pool? I think I was off on
I figured it out.
the new construction. Yeah.
If we can go back to sheet 2, it is sheet 2. I was just confusing the road with the railroad. So it is, the potential vernal pool is just south of where it says CSX.
Okay.
So it is, so on GIS, it is the one in the light green pool. And if you go back to the plan, that corresponds with, so see the words CSX on the track, and then south is like a nice open pool of water. It's that. So the yellow does correspond with that. I was just thrown off by Westboro Road versus the train track. That was all.
Not a
Gotcha.
problem.
And just while you did bring that up, I did go into just to confirm in the regulations that vernal pools, you do need to keep that 10-foot buffer as well from vernal pools. And we just to also add, we do send these maps to NHESP every year. We send a yearly operational plan with the maps to NHESP, just to add to that.
All right. So Leah, anything else if you want to go through your kind of report?
Sure. So I listed 3 provisions from the regulations that we can cite as findings. 2 of them point to basically the process that they're going through tonight, which is to obtain a determination from us for the boundaries. Those are the first 2 citations. The bottom one is the citation that shows that they're exempt from the riverfront requirements. So I would suggest putting all 3 of those in a finding. I'm also recommending the issuance of a positive determination 2A as requested, that confirms their resource areas. And also the negative determination number 5, which again points back to the exemption from those riverfront regulations.
All right. I don't have any other questions. I'll just open it at this time out to the public. If anyone has any questions or comments about the RDA for the MBTA Railroad right away, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll do a quick round of commissioners to see if they have any other questions. Jonathan.
Nothing else.
Thank you. Travis.
Nope, nothing else.
Amira.
I have one quick question. I'm sorry if this has already been mentioned, but what herbicide were you all planning to use?
It varies every year. There's a list of maybe 10 or 15 herbicides provided by Mass DAR in association with Mass DEP. They've done studies with these herbicides and confirm they only provide the ones that kind of pass their test. There's a lot of research that goes behind it, that tests the absorption rate and the flow rate. So from that list, the applicator will make a mixture every year, and it does vary. What I've been told, kind of to put it simply, is that they kind of vary from this list every year, just because the vegetation can build up a resistance if you use the same exact mixture every year. But we do provide the exact mixture to your commission in the yearly operational plan that we send to your commission every year.
Awesome. Thank you. No other questions.
All right, great. Other than that, anyone, Jan, from the public?
Nothing from the public.
Okay, based on that, Leah, I don't think we have anything else.
Nope.
Okay, so then we're looking to a motion that includes what we already discussed as far as the filings and determinations. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to close the hearing and issue a positive determination, number 2A, and a negative determination, number 5, along with the other findings as discussed.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I got a motion, a second, roll call vote. Travis, since you're on my screen.
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So
Thank you very
Alright.
much, everyone. Have a good
Alright.
night.
you too. Thanks, Leah, to having everything prepared.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now next up is, I just need to bring the right thing up. Here we go. So next one's continuation on 200 Westboro Road. I'm going to read this in. At a certain point, I will recuse myself, but they've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. So, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a parking lot at 200 Westboro Road. So based on that, so I will start by saying that I will be recusing myself based on the fact that the company I work for and own part of does quite a bit of work for Tufts University, who is the applicant. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, because the last time we met, there was some discussion over whether Jonathan would have to recuse or not. He's gone through a process. And since I don't have all the details, I'm going to leave it to Jonathan or Leah to kind of explain what's going on.
I'll start, I guess, and Leah, if I stumble on something, just
Sure.
please offer any support. So I called state ethics and basically just said, hey, here's the situation. Because my company that I work for is not pursuing this project directly as an opportunity, I don't have a direct conflict of interest related to the project. But what they pointed at was having the appearance of a conflict of interest. So they had me fill out a form that's the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest as required by GL 268A 23B3. It's known as the 23B3 form on their website. I filed it through to the town and basically said there may be an appearance of a conflict of interest, but based around my knowledge of the job and my knowledge of the fact that it is an ESOP company that I work for, but the filing this appearance of a conflict of interest and stating that I don't have a conflict of interest essentially is what the process entailed. So I believe based on that information, it's up to Wayne and or I should say the applicant, to determine if that's an acceptable process to follow, or if he would prefer me not to participate in the action. Leah, would that sum it up
Perfect.
properly?
Yep.
Feel like I'm a lawyer now.
Okay. The best part is now that I get to recuse myself because I know it is a conflict, or the better part is I get to turn this over to Jonathan to kind of take the lead role unless Travis wants to jump in. And other than that, I would just say at this point, I will be leaving my office area and not being on camera until after this hearing is done. So good luck. Thanks.
We'll yell really loud when it's done, Sandy.
Okay, I'll check in. I'll see you waving your hands at me again. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So Travis, I don't know if you want to grab it only because if Wayne doesn't feel
Sorry.
comfortable.
Sorry to interrupt you guys. Sandy did not mute herself. Maybe, I don't know if that
think
matters,
Jan
but
probably can do it.
Who's got the loudest voice? I can yell.
just,
I can mute her.
I think Jan can mute her.
Yeah. Got her.
So Travis, I don't know if you want to take the reins only because I do what I just said was, I think, very, I'm looking for your feedback, Wayne.
Did Wayne respond? Is he good with it?
I can respond if you folks would like.
Yeah.
First of all, Jonathan, as I said last week or a couple weeks ago, I would have taken the same course of action that you had. So I do appreciate the due diligence and obviously your respect for what you guys do. I sit on my own board in my own town, and as I said, I would have gone through the same process just to make sure. So on behalf of Tufts University, I would like you to participate. I don't believe there is a conflict of interest based on your explanation as you had come in, where you're not working specifically on this project. I do appreciate the perceived conflict of interest. And it is for that reason that I don't do any work in my town as I sit on a board. So I do appreciate that. But like I said, we'd appreciate if we would have 3 members voting tonight, so that will allow us to go forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Leah, anything I can open up? Travis, unless you want to grab it, I can
Go for it.
Let me just make sure I have
Sandy
the right
read
thing.
the whole ad, right?
Yeah, we're in.
Okay,
So we just
thank
need an
you.
overview.
Yeah, we're live. So Wayne, you've got the floor then.
Sure. Thank you, folks. Much appreciated. Before we begin, am I to understand that there is not an opportunity to share screens or allow me to share my screen? Or is that
Dan's
incorrect?
gonna do it.
Yeah, you cannot, but Jan can.
Okay. Okay, so I won't, so I want to apologize for this locust map, by the way. That was my doing. Obviously, there isn't a pond in the middle of the campus. So the previous locust map was accurate. So again, Wayne Bellick, Land Design Collaborative, here on behalf of Tufts University. I do have one of my staff here in the audience, Nate Bouts, and if he's available, we may have to call him up as a panelist, but I doubt that. But again, particular project is located on 530 acres of land. The specific area of interest is limited to about 4.5 acres of land within your jurisdiction. So if we could, Jan, scroll a couple sheets down, and I'll identify the area of interest. Next one, please. There you go. So the site is located on the east side of Willard Street and on the south side of Westboro Road. The Bernice Barber Wildlife Center is just that building to the north of the area of interest. And I'd like to, at this point, so as you can see, the area of interest encompasses that area to the south of Lower Valley Road and does traverse Willard Street over westward. Those areas are out of your jurisdiction, but the reason we're showing that is for pedestrian access to make access from the proposed parking lot accessible to westward points of destination. So if you wouldn't mind scrolling back up to that previous sheet there, Jan. So this is the existing conditions plan, and what's beautifully done, Jan. So what you see here is a reprocessed asphalt paving parking lot. It's basically millings. Unlike typical paved parking lots, wrap parking lots are typically, there's a little bit of a tar in there which causes it to bind. This doesn't bind, it's somewhat soft underfoot. But this was a temporary measure installed, as I understand, last August of 2024. The site generally pitches, as you can see across the parking lot, that's about a 5% slope throughout the property. In this particular area, like I said, it's about 4.35 acres within your jurisdiction as part of this project scope. There are 2 wetlands, and there's actually 1 wetland system, but 2 areas for flagging. There's an open meadow, if you folks are familiar with the area, that is denoted in the field by wetland flags A1 to A31. That area in there is pretty much a reed canary grass and a yellow foxtail vegetation. Again, hydric soils, evidence of hydrology based on the swale and the hydric soils. Over to the east on the other side of the culvert is the B series of wetlands, and that is the canopy is a red maple swamp vegetation. The shrub layer is comprised of think elder, common elder, and honeysuckle, and then the herbaceous layer is reed canary grass as well as skunk cabbage. That particular culvert, so I'd like to get into what's actually happening out here. You know, seeing that you folks are the permitting authority for stormwater and for the wetlands bylaw as well. So this particular site, if you look at the way the site flows, it flows from essentially from the west to the east through the swale, and as you can see through the contours in the parking lot, it flows down toward the wetland. To the east of the parking lot, you'll see a circular or oblong shape topographic feature. That was an effort to create a stormwater attenuation type system. And what they had done is they created a kettle hole in there. There was no outlet to that. And I think the intent was, in fact, I know the intent was along the paved portion of the site where it meets with the asphalt millings, there's runoff that comes down through that area, continues down to that gravel driveway, which is to the east. And that runs basically north to south over the culvert and between the wetlands. So basically what has happened historically is the stormwater runoff would flow to that area and cause washout up above. And so what they had done is they installed this this kettle hole to try to capture that, reroute it, slow it down, and lower it and allow it to basically work as a level spreader to cascade over the top. Well, long and short, there isn't a whole heck of a lot of water that gets there. So as part of our scope, we're looking to address that, and you'll see when we get to it. Down below, where the 2 wetlands meet, there is a farmer's culvert. This culvert, based on our observations in the field, we had prodded inside the culvert, peered inside, and basically what it appears to be constructed of is way back when there was a trench excavated between the 2 wetland systems. This may have been before it became a wetland system, but again, probably under an agricultural use. And they placed boulders, stones, and they used that. And that was common. You know, I've seen it elsewhere in Grafton, where they would look to convey the water from the up gradient side to the down gradient side. Well, in meeting with the group out at Tufts, when we were looking at the project initially, what we learned is that this particular area was subject to overtopping. And what we said to them is that what appears to be happening is, rather than serving as a conveyance, this particular farmer's culvert is serving as a restriction to some degree. So as part of our scope, we would look to address that. The soils on the property are hydrologic soil group D. And as you can see, we opened up some test pits, which were witnessed by Graves Engineering. And what we found, based on the results of our test pits and the the NRCS soils maps is that what we found in the field is fairly consistent with what the maps indicate. Again, hydrologic soil group C and D. On the Westboro piece, there is a hydrologic soil group C, and then further to the east of this area, I'm sorry, northwest, is hydrologic soil group C. So basically what we're seeing here is the permeability rate in the area of interest is not very great. There is some permeability, some infiltration, but not very great. If we could, Jan, scroll to the next sheet, please. And the one beyond that, please. Thank you. So this particular sheet shows before any work is done out here, it's a site prep. So it's a site prep plan and the erosion and sediment control plan. So the way this would work is the very first thing that we would look to do is employ erosion and sediment control barriers. So down at the southeast corner of the property, you can see that we are proposing erosion and sediment control barriers on the down gradient side of the culvert, on the up gradient side of the culvert, and then we're continuing the erosion and sediment control barriers in a northwest direction on either side. And as we're on the west side of the gravel road, we are continuing the erosion sediment controls in a westward direction. The very first thing that we would do after installing that is we would prep the sediment basin. That sediment basin is going to be the future home of the stormwater management, infiltration, and gravel wetland area. And we do that obviously because once hydrology changes on site, as you folks know, things can go crazy. So we like to address this early on to ensure that there are no increases in the peak rate of runoff or sediment-laden waters traveling downstream. As part of this, we would install the pipe to the stormwater basin with and that would be equipped with a temporary riser standpipe with a filter fabric and stone. And then we would look to go to the milled, the Millings parking lot and look to work with that. Now, because there has been a history on occasion of gravel having been washed out, particularly up above, and some overtopping down below, we decided that we would take these millings and repurpose them. And what we're looking to do is propose to repurpose them over the gravel road to stabilize that a little bit more. That would keep any sediment that may travel from this the gravel road downward. That would just ensure that it stays underneath the millings, similar to the effect that it's having here. As you can see, we do have some stockpile areas on site. We have temporary loam stockpile area to the northwest of the sediment basin. And the same thing as you go to the west side of the parking lot, we have a temporary loam stockpile area. And then to the north of that particular one, temporary processed gravel pile. That gravel pile, once they prep the area, they excavate the subsoil out of here. The topsoil has been stripped. The subsoil still remains under the Millings parking lot. We expect that there's going to be about another 18 inches to 24 inches stripped out of there, and probably about 2 to 2.5 feet stripped further downhill to accommodate the full footprint of the new parking lot. As you can see, we are also proposing some diversion channels on site, one to the south side of the existing parking lot, and then one to the northeast, which will pick up any of the runoff and take it into that sediment basin. So obviously, when we're dealing with a situation like this, the question is okay, you know, from your perspective, from my perspective, the last thing that I want to do is get a call from somebody, most importantly, the Conservation Commission, saying, hey, what's going on out here? You've got an erosion sediment control issue. These fences, the silt fences or straw wattles are all decaying and everything. What we're proposing here is up in the parking lot, there's going to be a storage trailer containing any replenishment materials for erosion sediment controls, straw wattles, silt fence, and the like. There will be a construction trailer on the property as well. You'll also see that we have a construction vehicle refueling area well out of the buffer zone, and that would be up in the paved portion of the site. And speaking with Jan and Leah, we've had a couple meetings with them and with town staff. One of the things here, which is critical, is timing. As you folks know, we've all been to school. The timing is critical here. In order for them to have this construction work done, logistically, it has to happen in the summer. The construction start date is going to be in the middle of May and run to the middle of August, where they're looking to have everything buttoned up so that the students can come back, park here, and then continue to use the campus. If we could now switch, Jan, to the next sheet, please. So this sheet shows the layout materials plan. This basically shows the limits of the pavement. It's going to be a bituminous concrete parking lot. We're going to have some islands in here, obviously, with lighting and the typical things that you see with a parking lot. This parking lot is an ancillary use to the campus. It is sized to they had a need for parking. And so what they have here is they're providing another 150 spaces to the 959 that they have out there currently. So this will allow for students, faculty, visitors to park here. This is going to be referred to the Lower Valley Road parking lot, and so that they can migrate westward to other points of interest. As part of this, what you'll see is in the lower southwest corner of the parking lot, we are proposing a walkway that crosses Willard Street and then continues up Jumbo's Path on the south side of Jumbo's Path. Likewise, we would look to have a sidewalk that's going to run from the parking lot, the west side, northward toward the Bernice Barber building, and then continue through a new sidewalk. Again, all that is out of your jurisdiction, but that just kind of giving you some ideas to what this is going to look like. And then that will continue to over to the small and large animal hospital. This area in here, like I said, what you see on this particular plan is an outline of the swale we were talking about to the south side of the parking lot. The parking lot is designed, this whole system is designed as a low impact development system. So basically we're implementing low impact development principles with the implementation of the gravel wetland, an open drainage system, trying to minimize to the greatest extent practicable the closed type drainage system. When we looked at this out here, anytime we do a project, I like to look at the environs in the subject site area. When I look at this, you hear the horses whinnying in the field, the cows mooing. The last thing you want to do is make it look like downtown Worcester. So what we did is we said, okay, let's look at providing swales. Let's look at providing a gravel wetland here to promote some activity for wildlife and for birds and such. And so when we looked at that, that's kind of what we had in mind. And so when we designed the drainage system, we designed it not only to function and to comply with the local and state regulations, but at the same time, work is to complement the topography. In doing so, we wanted to keep as low profile as we could with the parking lot and not fill. If we went in with a conventional closed drainage system, it would have caused us to fill the south side and the south east side of the property with another couple feet of material, which would have just brought it out of character with what's going on here. They are looking to have the area to the south of the parking lot. As you can see, we're proposing a new relocated post and wire electrified fence for livestock. So they're looking to try to maximize the real estate for livestock out here, and this plan is able to accomplish that. As part of this design, again, we're looking at a spillway, a Bitconk spillway drainage system. So you can see along three sides. If Jan, if you wouldn't mind just zooming in on the parking lot area a little bit, that'd be great. So as you can see, we have three spillways that collect. They're about a third of the way down and one at the very end that collects stormwater runoff from the parking area and then takes it down into the gravel wetland. Snow storage on site. We've identified snow storage, which is going to occur within the islands and along the perimeter of the parking lot and to the back of the sidewalk to the east. If you wouldn't mind, Jan, scrolling to the next slide, please. Thank you. So with this, what you see in the shaded area is the proposed bituminous concrete parking lot. In looking at this, as you folks recall earlier when I was talking about the existing stormwater problem, part of the problem that we had is just north of that shaded area, all that stormwater runoff. As you can see, there's a little bit of a swale in there, and the contours pretty much do kind of go north and south, which tends to create that condition that I was talking about earlier, where it causes the washout to the east in the northeast portion of that gravel driveway. So what we decided to do was redirect that. As you can see, I have another Bitconk spillway, which then will take that runoff. We created a berm so it keeps the runoff that comes across the parking lot, rather than coming the existing parking lot, the paved parking lot, rather than have that come across the new parking lot and into the stormwater management basin, we've redirected it over to this sediment basin type device, which has a drop inlet. The drop inlet will then take any sediments that come into that sediment basin, any additional sediments, and take it to the other side of the gravel road without crossing the gravel road. So rather than having that washout condition continue, it is going to be captured in that depression and then piped under the gravel road to discharge in the meadow. Again, all of this out of the buffer zone. The other thing that we're looking at here, as you can see, topographically, we've kind of mimicked the grades in here. If you look at the existing contours across the parking lot and the proposed contours, they're pretty much the same. It's about a 5% grade that comes down to this area. Probably about, not quite the maximum we would propose. I think the maximum we would propose is probably about a 6 or 7% grade. The reason we do that is because I think we've all been in the situation where we've opened up our doors to our cars and they swing open, hopefully not hitting another car, but sometimes coming back on you. So it's a comfortable grade at 5%, and that's what we're carrying in here. So from a stormwater perspective, again, the Bitconk spillways, they discharge into a riprap swale. The riprap swale has been sized to take the 100-year storm event. This conveyance will take it down to the gravel wetland, which has a pretty interesting design to it. And if I could, Jan, direct you to the upper left-hand corner of the sheet, to the blow up of the gravel wetland. There it is. So with that, at the corner of the driveway, you see a rectangular shaped device. You'll also see these dark trapezoidal shaped objects. Those trapezoidal shaped objects represent flared end sections. These are going to be high density polyethylene flared end sections. This system's interesting because it's a gravel wetland. It's designed so that the water quality volume that we have to treat 100% of the water quality volume. 10% is accomplished either through a sediment forebay or a stormwater treatment device that we have here. So what we're proposing is in this area, this is the only subsurface tank or structure that we're proposing, other than the drop inlet that I mentioned earlier. This particular device, the way it operates, the stormwater runoff comes down the swale, comes down across the pavement. It hits a concrete pad. So we're going to have a poured concrete pad with a concrete curb on the down gradient side. The concrete curb is designed to take 1 inch of runoff of sediment and direct it into that chamber. That's referred to as the first flush. It takes that first flush. Any other storm event overtops that so that the sediments have now been deposited into the 3,500 gallon tank, and any additional water that comes in there goes out the overflow pipe to the tank, while the rest of it comes down into the gravel wetland. The gravel wetland is designed with 2 cells. Each cell is required to take 45% or accommodate 45% of the water quality volume. That's achieved by the elevations within the system and the footprint of the basin. This particular basin is, in a perfect world, you'd like to design a stormwater basin that has a nice infiltrative value so that you can recharge groundwater, and that would be the ideal situation. In this particular case, because of the hydrologic soil groups that we have here, C and D, we are required under the regulations to achieve that to the maximum extent practicable. And so we do that. We don't account for that in our stormwater report. So the stormwater design is conservative in that respect. So, but however, there is in the non-gravel wetland portion of the basin, there is some minimal groundwater recharge that would be occurring. Within the system, I don't know how familiar you guys are with this this type of system. I know Leah is familiar with it, but it's an interesting system where it's a crushed stone system. You can kind of look at it like a septic system, where you have your 4-inch pipe on top of the stone in the septic system. This is different. The stone goes on top of the pipe, and then we have a layer, 8-inch layer of peat and loam that creates the soil conditions, and then we plant the material. We designed the system with the elevations of the outlet control device to be equipped with a weir that keeps the elevations of the water such that the plant community can keep their feet wet. That's the design of the system. It's a very efficient system, great at TSS removal and great at phosphorus removal. Under your local bylaws, you're required to remove 60% phosphorus. This system removes 99%. If we could go to the next sheet, please, Jan. This next sheet is the utility plan. So what we see here is our drainage system with a little less detail, no topography. We see the underground electric, which is going to feed the electrified fence and the light pole fixtures that are proposed on site. Really not much here, but this is what this shows. Next sheet, please, Jan. Maybe the one after that one. So actually, if you want to look at this one, upper right-hand corner, if you could go back to that, Jan. So that sheet, that cylindrical object there, that is our outlet control device. If you could pan, there you go. So you see the grate on top, that's the outlet control device of our basin. If you look in that cylindrical section, you see that rectangular shaped dash line thing in the lower portion of it. That is our weir control device. That top of that controls the elevation of the water for the gravel wetland. So that everything below that keeps that gravel wetland fed and lush. If you could zoom out, please, Jan. And scroll down, please. Okay, so here's the, whoops, there you go, bottom of that sheet. Bottom of the sheet is the cross-section of the gravel wetland. And I show you this only so that you folks can see what this thing looks like. It's a pretty neat design. I never designed one until this town. It was Sandy Brock on another project where she had asked me to think a little less gray and more green. And that was 5 to 7 years ago. And ever since then, I've been doing things like this. So like I said, this particular system interconnected with pipes, 2 cells with 45% water quality. You can see on the top, the wetland vegetation and the weir device inside the outlet control structure. Next sheet, please, Jan. So this sheet, interesting. We had, this was a comment to the commission. This was a comment raised during the review of the project. Everybody weighed in on it. Jan and Leah weighed in. They had some concerns about some of the things we were doing. One of the things was the BVW. We, in our initial iteration of the drawing, we were, basically kissing the BVW, but when you looked at it, it was a little bit more than a kiss. So we said, okay, we're going to pull this back. We're going to shorten the pipe culvert from 35 feet to 32 feet and honor the edge of the BVW. That's what this represents. Leah and Jan had asked that we provide a profile of this section so that it could be demonstrated that we were not altering the BVW on either side, but rather honoring it and maintaining a distance. So that's what that represents there. If you could, Jan, please go to the next slide. This is layout materials, nothing of interest to you folks. Next one, please. That's really not much either. Next one, please. So this is the planting plan. So when we were meeting with town staff, a couple things had come up during the discussion, and under the campus development overlay district, the planting requirements for parking lots differ from that of other districts in town. They don't really have a parking lot landscape requirement. We had initially proposed some trees in here, but after we started talking with town staff and learning of some of the honeybee population in the area, not only here, but at the Willard Clock Museum and neighboring properties, it was decided that in lieu of trees that we would propose a wildflower mix in the islands and around the perimeter of the site to promote some more activity on campus and for other hives in the area. So that's basically what we're looking at from a stormwater perspective. In terms of the pre and post development runoff rates, we decrease in all cases. We are proposing that the culvert replacement down below is going to be replaced with two 18-inch pipe culverts to convey water so that we don't have the ponding situation. We are required to design for the 50-year storm event, which it has been. The pipes will be free flowing, not under operating under head. And we're going to have the properly sized riprap apron on the down gradient side of that, again, not within the wetland. There is some work that is going to be located within the 20-foot no disturb. That cannot be avoided. That's basically to replace that existing culvert. We could avoid the work within the 20-foot no disturb by not replacing the culvert. But what that means down the road is that we're going to continue to have washout at that location, especially when you're looking at gravel, not a good thing for a wetland system. So that would be something, again, that we're requesting a waiver for that. We're also requesting a waiver for the TSS removal rate. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, it's an 80% TSS removal rate. Under your local bylaws, it's a 90% removal rate. Again, we are proposing the gravel wetland system. Phosphorus removal, like I said, 60% required. We're at 99%. We look at this project as a redevelopment project up above where we're taking the sediments that are washed at the northern end of this gravel drive. We're addressing that situation, eliminating that situation, resurfacing this gravel road with the millings to stabilize it, and again, avoiding the overtopping down below. And so that in that respect, like I said, we're making conditions better than what are there today. So that's where we would like to, one of the reasons that we're seeking relief to that requirement to that of the state stormwater regulations. In terms of the buffer zone on the property that's that's within your jurisdiction of the area of interest, it's 4.35 acres. Of that 4.35 acres, we are altering less than 1.2 acres, 1.18 acres. Of that, about 0.35, about a third of the area is impervious, is paved. So with that said, I think that may do it for my presentation, and I'm open for any questions that you folks may have.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
Thank you.
Amira, any questions for Wayne?
Yeah, I did have maybe one question. It's like a combo question.
Okay.
I was wondering if you had considered using any like permeable paving materials for the parking lot or utilizing things like rain gardens. to catch some of that stormwater?
So, yeah, and I like the question. I think it's a good question. So what we find is with the permeable pavers, there are some negatives and positives to permeable pavers. I know some commissions hate them because it basically, if you have a car, not that we're going to have any situations, with cars these days, leaking oil, but that typically is a concern from a maintenance perspective, especially when you're dealing with a 5% paved surface area. 5% in winter conditions can get a little slick. So with the paved, the permeable pavers, there's no sanding that can occur. We can sand here because we have the system that will collect that sediment before it makes its way downstream. For the same thing applies with the rain gardens. Typically, we like, when we site rain gardens, we like to do them in areas where there's not much pavement. So if it's in this case here, so if we were to say, let's say we do little rain gardens within the areas of the pavement, just based on the heat that radiates off the pavement, the areas are kind of small with these islands. We need the 150 foot, the 150 space parking lot, and the real estate in this area is pretty tight. My understanding in the selection of this parking lot was that there had been some dialogue between Tufts and the town of Grafton, exploring areas on campus which made the most sense in siting this parking lot. And it was last summer that they decided on this location for the temporary parking lot with the intent of making it a permanent parking lot. So Amira, I do appreciate the question. And in some instances, it would apply. We would do it, but I don't think this site, because of the topography and the other reason that I just discussed, it really doesn't apply here. And this is why, again, in looking at a low impact development element to the design, this is why we're looking at the gravel wetland. We feel that brings that lid element to the program, as well as the open drainage system. So then one could say, you could do, so now I'm going to sit on your side of the table, and I'm sure that the question's going off on your head. So you meet the 80% with the state. Why can't you meet our 90% with the town? Well, one of the challenges that we could do that. The problem that we run into is, again, as I was saying earlier, we meet the state requirement. We have a nice, efficient, low impact development system, and we're trying to work with the character of the land here. In order for us to meet that requirement, the local requirement, we would have to raise that south side of the parking lot and that southeast side of the parking lot several feet. And now you're looking at an elevated parking lot that just doesn't fit with the character of the land. It does meet the state requirement. So again, just kind of building upon my response back to you, Amira, which again, great question. And these are, again, ever since, our initial dialogue with Sandy some 7 years ago, when I realized I was still in the dark ages, and she brought me into the light. This is why, we look at things like rain gardens and the like, and other projects where it works. In this particular project, the gravel wetland worked quite nicely.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other
Okay.
questions.
Thanks, Amira. Travis, do you have any questions?
So the gravel wetland will be planted with something. It's not, so Amira, it's not just going to be a gravel wetland. It will have some native vegetation.
Kind of like a giant rain garden.
Yeah, that's how I
expand
would
upon
look
that?
at it. Yeah, so there is some benefit there. Are there horses
Yeah.
out there right now, Wayne, in the area that's electrified?
So
I
not
assume
right
there's-
now because the fences
I
are
assume
down.
there's something out there.
Yeah,
typically.
so not in this particular field. On the other side, I would, if you folks tend to venture out here, I'm going to give you a heads up here on the south side of Jumbo's Path. There's a sign out there. I think it's an alpaca or a llama that I was
I'm
warned
just
about.
curious what's used in the area.
Yeah, nothing right now, but there's a llama over there that does a number on coyotes when it comes near the sheep.
So
they have
Leah, is there an exemption or something that's preventing them from protecting the existing wetland and the 25 foot? 'Cause I don't see the no disturb signs, and I'm wondering, and I see the fences moving to the outer edge of the wetland, but up against the parking lot.
Are you asking?
So,
I'm,
so if I
I'm
could answer
asking
that,
Leah
Yeah.
first, if you
yeah,
looked into that, if there's like an ag exemption.
Are you asking why there isn't no disturb signage and protection now? Is that your question?
Or is, maybe I should rephrase it, can we request no disturb protection signage? But is there a point if they're gonna just have horses graze out there anyway?
I mean, we certainly could along the edge of the lot or like where that fence is going.
Yeah.
For the agricultural question, I'd have to do a little bit of reading.
mhm. If I could weigh in on that,
Sure.
the fence is an electrified fence. It's going to be, we're going to run new, lines to it. So again, it's all going to be proposed to have livestock. So that in itself, with the electrified fence, there'll be no lawn creep at that point. So it will honor that edge of the 25-foot boundary.
But the disturbance from the animals will continue.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're filling,
So they'll
we're
be grazing.
impacting the 100-foot and continuing the impacts from the animals in that area. But I'm not sure, Leah, we can,
There
much
likely
about
is an agricultural aspect at play,
Exemption.
but that
Yeah.
part gets
Yeah.
pretty complicated.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
I don't
say.
have any issues with the stormwater piece. That looks great.
Thank you. So with that, just back to Amira's question. These systems, so as you folks know, there's an O&M plan that goes with these. So basically the basins are maintained, as you folks know. There is the sweeping, which you really don't take credit for anymore. But as part of this gravel wetland and the O&M plan, because of the invasives issues that we see in many areas of our wetland communities, they have as part of the O&M plan, that is monitored for the first couple of years quite closely and quite frequently for invasives, and that is part of the O&M plan to ensure that no invasives make their way into the system. Typically, when you have something like this as well, in the physical barrier, if you will, between this and what was observed down below and in the system, we wouldn't expect that invasives would make their way into the system, into this wetland so readily. As noted in the stormwater report, in the ecological report, they would have cited that there were invasives, but there was nothing observed in the field. So I think, kind of looking at this system, I think what we have here, Amira, is one heck of a rain garden, if you will.
Thanks.
Leah, did Westboro have any comments or concerns? I think they were on.
Yeah, I finally got in touch with them. She actually wrote to me today, and just has a couple of things that I was gonna wrap into potential special conditions when we're ready for that.
I yield my time back to Jonathan.
Okay, any other questions, Travis or Amira?
No, I'm good.
No
Okay.
other questions.
So Leah, do you want to go through? So we could go a couple routes. I don't know if we want to hit waivers first or if we want to do special conditions first. I don't know what the preference is there, Leah.
Why don't we do votes on the waivers, but if you want to open to the public first, so they can
Sure.
have a chance.
So for any folks that are online on the phone listening, if you have any questions or comments about the hearing, please raise your hand and you can be promoted to speak. So we'll start to go through the waiver requests that have the waivers that have been requested while we wait if there's anyone on. And I believe it sounded like the only person online currently is Nate, who is with Wayne. There are no other members of the public on, so we'll keep an eye on it, see if anybody pops up. But any notes on the waivers, Leah, or is that pretty straightforward? And if so, Can we just move to a potential motion there?
Yeah, it's just the two that Wayne mentioned earlier. I gave you guys the section numbers, but basically it's one for the 80% TSS removal instead of 90, and the other is for the work that has to occur within the no disturb zone.
Okay. So that being said, do I have a motion? Can we do both the waivers in one, or do we have to do them both separately there?
I'm fine with a combo.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the waivers?
I'll move to grant waivers under section 6B4 of the stormwater bylaw and section VC5A of the wetlands bylaw regs.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Amira,
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The waiver motions for both those waivers through. And then Leah, so Jan, anyone from the public that's raised their hand at this stage? It didn't look like anybody, but
Nothing from the public.
okay, hadn't seen anything. Jan, do you want to run through a few of those special conditions you mentioned and anything about Westboro, and then we can keep moving along?
Yeah. I have one question for you guys first, though. Are we landing on no disturb signage along the electrified fence, or no, because it's an electrified fence?
Consider it, and that's the line of the wetland is right along the fence line.
Correct. Well, for a portion of it.
I was going to say for the portion of it that is along, I makes sense to put the signage in as long as it doesn't interfere with the use of the fence, because these are on. Can the signs be mounted to the fence or on posts next to the fence? I don't know if we've run into this condition before, Leah.
We have not.
Okay.
If I could suggest, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Your posts are there. I would utilize the post, if that's what you're looking to do. Utilize the post. It makes it easier for maintenance. One thing that I did learn from Tufts is that the grazing animals like to eat things. And that's one of the things when we were originally looking at trees, they had quite a separation. If you notice up at Jumbo's Path, there's quite a separation between the trees and the fence line. So I think, again, I'm not sure how large a placard you're looking at. My family had quite a bit of farmland up in Canada growing up as a kid, and it was electrified fence. And boy, you went there once and you learned. So I'll leave it to the commission on the placards on what you want to do. But if you do decide to go with the placards, I would recommend just popping them on the posts every so often.
Jonathan, I don't think we really say how they're installed, just what is installed, right?
Yeah, I think we
We've got a
dictate.
standard sign.
We've got a
and
standard,
distance.
correct?
Yeah. So how they do
So
it, I don't.
I agree, Travis. I think it sounds like, and Amira, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. If it makes sense to put the signage along the wetland just so people are aware that it's wetland.
That makes sense to me as well.
Okay. So Leah, is that enough direction to say we believe it to be a good thing to do along the buffer?
Yep.
But the typical signage that's installed is by our standards, and the choice of mounting it on the fence or on a separate post, whatever works better for the applicant, as long as it upholds what the request is, I think is fine based on what we just talked about.
Right.
So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could, so basically the fence notes that it is a protected area under the Grafton Conservation Commission or something to that effect? Is that basically what it says? Just out of curiosity.
I believe the language on the sign actually indicates no. I don't know if it indicates no dumping, Leah or Jan,
It
or if
says
it.
protected, no disturb wetland buffer, and I think it says Grafton Conservation around the
Okay.
edge, and they're little 4x4 medallions, nothing huge.
Okay, perfect. That works. That works. Thank you.
Okay. Leah, any special conditions you want to hit on?
Sure, so to run through the list, we would want a copy of the SWIP. And also a signed illicit discharge statement prior to commencement of work. The no disturb signage, as we just talked about. The O&M plan will be followed along with UNH gravel wetland recommendations and shall be monitored for invasive species per the stormwater handbook. I am recommending wetland peer review oversight of that culvert replacement. Snow shall not be pushed into or stored within any stormwater infrastructure. And then the two off of correspondence with Westboro would be, they want to be looped into the erosion control inspection prior to commencement of work because some of it's right on the town line. And they requested that the detention area be inspected to verify soil conditions before placement of the crushed stone bottom. That's all I have.
Okay. Wayne, do you have any comments or questions for Leah at this stage, or do those seem
No.
pretty?
Those seem fine. So the question I have is it Westboro would look to inspect on Grafton jurisdictional land, or are they looking for us to inspect? Because we always inspect.
So you'd be contacting us, and Jan and I
Yeah.
will coordinate us going out with somebody from Westboro.
So I guess that's my question. For the so the ECBs are one thing, where it's right on the Grafton town line, but and again, I'm just kind of looking at it, it just doesn't seem to make sense having the town of Westboro inspect something in the town of Grafton.
You mean
not
the
within the
basin part?
Yeah,
I
doesn't make
think,
sense to me.
so they want to be looped into the erosion control inspection. The basin part, they're just suggesting that we do it.
Okay, I just wanted to make clear, because I know
Yeah.
Westboro, you know, how they operate. Being a resident there, a resident company. Okay, thank you.
All right. So that being said, it doesn't look like we've got any comments from the public, Jan, and I don't think we've seen anything that we need to address.
No, nothing from the public.
Okay. Amira or Travis, any final questions or comments?
No final questions or comments.
Okay. That being said, do we have a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of permits with the conditions noted and the special conditions noted for 200 Westboro Road, Tufts University for the parking lot?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Amira?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Wayne.
Thank you, folks. Much appreciated. Time to get to bed. So thank you very much. Everyone have a good night, and thanks again. Looking forward to working with you again. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Do we need Sandy or can we close the meeting?
We can close.
We can close?
Sure.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a final motion for the
Motion
evening?
to adjourn.
Perfect. I'm going to motion. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Travis?
Yes.
Amira?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Sandy should be flagged down so she's not waiting any longer.